Unfortunately, a guardianship or conservatorship can be abused. That's especially sad because the guardian or conservator is supposed to be watching out for your money or your property, your medical decisions, all those kind of things. So the only reason that someone would have a guardian or conservator in the first place is if they can't communicate decisions or if they're not able to do those things effectively, right? They're incapacitated. The guardian or conservator is supposed to act in the best interests of the person who they're appointed for. And so that's a position of trust and authority that they take. And it's unfortunate. It can be illegal, in fact, criminal for the guardian or conservator to take advantage of the person they've been appointed for. You may have seen cases like this, unfortunately, where someone has taken the person's money and they use it for their own benefit or for some other purpose, not for them. So that's what a guardianship or conservatorship abuse would look like. The way to prevent that is probably more accounting or reporting to the court. So right now, there's a fairly minimal amount of accounting that's required for a conservator. So only once every 3 years does a conservator have to report to the court on on how they're spending the person's money. A guardian of the person actually is not required to file any report with the court about the status of the person. So, that's sometimes difficult to do because all that means is that there's additional court proceedings. But, the probate courts in Alabama primarily are charged with monitoring and overseeing guardianship and conservatorship and the performance of the guardian or conservator. So if those are being abused, then the earlier the better with the court getting involved. I would say also reporting is just like with any form of elder abuse or neglect or financial exploitation, reporting is important. And so not just to the probate court or wherever that case is, the guardian or conservator, but the Department of Human Resources, Adult Protective Services. If you're familiar with or you become aware of or you suspect that someone is being abused or neglected or financially exploited, even by the guardian or conservator who's supposed to be taking care of them, then you can report that to DHR, Adult Protective Services. They will investigate it. And if they find that the person is a court-appointed guardian or conservator, then they may be able to take some additional action, either with the probate court or with law enforcement. If you're a family member and you've been appointed as guardian or conservator for a loved one, then you need to know what your responsibilities are first and foremost. And I'll point you to two that are on our website in particular. One is a guide for individuals who are serving as a guardian or conservator. So you can look that guide up. It's a PDF that you can look at on our website, and it basically goes from front to back, what your responsibilities are. There's also a very helpful section on where to go for help with phone numbers and website addresses, different agencies that you can contact when you need help. But that guide that I'm talking about that's on our website is one that I would definitely look at as a resource. The other one is we have a series of educational videos. Again, you can find the links to those on our website. There are 10 different videos. They're relatively short, 5 to 7 minutes each, and it explains what a guardianship is, how do you get a guardianship, but also there are a couple of videos on your responsibilities. So for family members who are serving as a guardian or conservator, then I would recommend as well watching, if not all of those videos, at least the ones that talk about the responsibilities of the guardian or conservator, in addition to the written material that we produce or the guide that we will produce on our website. So in rural communities, I think there are a couple of issues that exist maybe in those areas. One that I mentioned earlier is that there may be a lack of services, right? So there may be a lack of individuals to serve as a guardian or conservator in some cases. And without a public guardian system in Alabama, often it may be harder to find those resources and those services, especially maybe individuals who could serve pro bono as a guardian or conservator. So there may not be as much a systematic effort to deal with situations when there's not a available family member to serve as a guardian or conservator. The other thing that I guess in rural areas, probably just travel related restrictions as well. So I wonder about the accessibility of services, and it may take a little bit further, especially for adults who might be limited in their ability to travel or no longer driving. And the further that it takes to get to those resources, that can also sort of be a real challenge. So I've seen some improvement. So again, the Alabama Guardianship, as well as the Supreme Court Commission on Adult Guardianships and Conservatorships, our vision is to improve guardianship and conservatorship practices in the state of Alabama. And I have seen some movement in that area. So I do think that the legal players, if you think about it, the attorneys and judges, we've done a number of training sessions, producing materials, educating lawyers on guardianship and conservatorship, as well as the less restrictive alternatives that we talk about, because lawyers play an important role in that, in avoiding a guardianship that may be unnecessary and pursuing one of those less restrictive alternatives. Along those lines, we've seen some definite improvement and some movement in preserving the autonomy and independence of adults. So especially with the passage of what's called the Colby Act on supported decision making that went into effect last August of 23, then that's another less restrictive alternative that I've seen a number of advocates using in the state of Alabama to, instead of getting a guardianship or conservatorship, especially for an adult who has an intellectual disability, for example, giving them the opportunity to enter into a supported decision-making agreement. I've seen a lot of movement and improvement there. I've also seen the buy-in of a lot of different organizations. So those organizations that deal with older adults, maybe who have dementia or Alzheimer's, they have contacted the commission, and we've been able to collaborate with a number of judges, as well as some of those organizations, in producing material, education, and training statewide. I think the next step, as far as what I'd like to see happen, is just better implementation of some of the things that we've been talking about. So these less restrictive alternatives, limited guardianships, for example, some of these are not new. People have known about these for years. So I think it's a little bit of a change and a little bit of a cultural mindset that we need to be working towards, really emphasizing autonomy and the dignity of not only older adults who maybe have some cognitive impairment, but also younger adults who have an intellectual or developmental disability, and just thinking about that first and foremost in preserving their independence and decision making before we just kind of leap to the end and petition for a guardianship or conservator just because, right? I think more education and I think more advocacy, especially as it relates to independence and autonomy, is going to be important in the next few years.